Erev Tov, everyone. So we started discussing the laws of Kriat Shema, as it comes up in the parasha, of course, in Parashat Vayetchanan, the psukim of Shema. So we mentioned last night that the first pasuk has a special status. The first paragraph, and really the first pasuk of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. If one does not have kavanah, at least general broad kavanah, b'di'eved, one has not fulfilled the mitzvah at all, one would have to go back and repeat Shema. Repeat that pasuk at least. We mentioned last night that if one, if one had a general kavanah, meaning understood the meanings of the words and had in general the sense of kabbalat malchut shamayim, that is enough. The idea here is not to get everybody second guessing themselves and repeating Shema again and again and again. But if one was really not thinking about it at all, and one did not have in mind, and just you said the words, but you didn't even realize you said the words, so then you would have to go back and you would have to have in mind. So, because we need to have extra kavanah in the first pasuk, there are different differences in terms of halacha, in terms of the way we say this pasuk, and we'll see some a little bit later on. But he writes here in Pnei Halacha, "Kadei lo'el ta'kavanah, noagim lekot pasuk harishon b'kol olam." As we all know, the first pasuk we say out loud. Again, part of the reason is in order that we can concentrate better. V'chein noagim lachasot et ha'einayim b'yad yamin. We cover our eyes with our right hand. In order that we shouldn't be looking at other things and being distracted. As is the custom in many places, the first pasuk is said out loud together. When the whole kahal says the pasuk says kabbalat malchut shamayim together, there is a certain ma'ala to that. Okay, now the second pasuk, that gets very, very interesting, because the second pasuk of Shema is not a pasuk at all, as we know, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto, right? Where does that come from? And of course, we know that we say that in a whisper, with one exception, of course, which is on Yom Kippur, right? Just tangentially, the question is asked, right? Many ways. So when we get to Yom Kippur, we know that we say the pasuk of Baruch Shem, the line of Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto. We say it out loud when we say Kriat Shema. We say that out loud at the beginning of Yom Kippur, throughout the day. Why? Because we are similar to angels, we're similar to malachim. So the question is asked, why is it at the beginning of Yom Kippur, you're not like an angel yet, you haven't done anything, right? It just started, you've just stuffed your face at the Sodam Mafseket, it's beginning, right? You're saying Vidur, you're saying you're trying to get into it, okay. After the entire Yom Kippur, after 5 Tefillot, after Ne'ilah, after everything, that's the time, surely, that we are the most resembling the malachim. And then we get to Maariv at the end of the fast, and we whisper again. So it's interesting. Why at the end of the fast are we whispering, and at the beginning of the fast we're saying out loud? Okay, so I'll let you think about that as we approach Yom Kippur. But in any event, what is the source? Where does this come from? So he says, "Miyad lachar pasuk harishon omrim balachash baruch shem kol malchuto l'olam va'ed, ve'af shemishpat ze eino mofia b'parashat Shema." Certainly does not appear, right, when we get to this week, Parashat Vayetchanan, and we'll read the psukim of Shema. You'll notice Baruch Shem Kavod does not appear there. In fact, it's not a pasuk from the Tanakh at all. But we have an old Masoret, we have a very old tradition going back that we say this. So it says in the Gemara, Mesechet Psachim, שלפני פטירתו של יעקב אבינו, נאספו כל בניו אליו. Before Yaakov Avinu died, all of his children gathered around. ביקש לגלות להם את קץ הימים, ונסתלקה ממנו שכינה. Yaakov wanted to reveal what would happen at the end of days, what would be the process before when the Mashiach would come, and he was not able to. The Shekhinah left him. So he was was taken aback by this. Amar levanav, Shema yesh bachem mi she'eino agun. Says Yaakov, I don't understand. Why did I lose the ability of prophecy? Why did I lose connection with the Shekhinah, so to speak? Maybe one of my sons, is not worthy. So, Avraham, שיצא ממנו ישמעאל, וכאבי יצחק, שיצא ממנו עשיו. We had a precedent for this, right? Abraham had one son who went off the derech, Yitzchak had a son who went off the derech. So maybe. לכן אינו יכול לגלות לכם את הקץ. Maybe that's the reason why I cannot reveal it. פתחו כולם ואמרו, שמע ישראל השם אלוקינו השם אחד. They all said the pasuk, שמע ישראל השם אחד, right? כשם שאין בלבך אלא אחד, just as you are one, so too kach en belvavenu el echad. We are also all one. We're all the same. We all have the same intent. Not to worry. So then Yaakov's mind was put at ease, and he replied, he said, Baruch Shem Kol Malchuto L'Olam Va'ed. So that's the story in the Gemara. So now, says the Gemara, now what do we do? Zamru Chachamim, Ma Naseh Anachnu? Nomar Mishpat Zeh, Lo Nektav B'Parasha. We're going to add the sentence in, but it's not included. It's not there in the pasuk. It's not in the parasha. On the other hand, Lo Ne'emar Oto Al Yaakov Avinu Alav Shalom Amaro. It's good enough for Yaakov. It's good enough for us, right? So what do we do? Lefichach tiknu lo mo belachash. Therefore, we say it, but we say it quietly. We whisper. משפט זה נחשב כהמשך לקבלת אור מלכות שמיים, שהפסוק הראשון, this is the continuation of the קבלת אור מלכות שמיים, and therefore also with this one should have intent, and one should have in mind the meaning of the words, etc. Okay, so then we spoke a little bit last night just about the general idea of kavanah. Elaborate now for the next few minutes that we have. So it says like this, נחלקו האמוראים והראשונים בשאלה Ha'im mitzvot tzrichot kavana. As we mentioned last night, there is a general principle throughout Shas. There's a machloket. Do we say mitzvot tzrichot kavana or not? Meaning, שהתורה ציוותה אותנו לעשות מצווה מסוימת. The Torah commands us in a certain mitzvah. האם עצם ביצוע המצווה מספיק? Is it enough? The Torah said do X, so we do X. We've done the mitzvah. That's enough. Or do we say no? צריך גם לכוון בעת עשייתה. Do we have to have a specific intent in mind when I'm fulfilling the mitzvah, that I'm doing this action because I was commanded, because this was a mitzvah? The Shulchan Aruch writes, regarding Kriat Shema, he says that the halacha is that we do need to have intent. Explains, that you could say, the reason behind this halacha is kashem sheyesh le'adam guf u'neshama, just like we have body and soul, you can't live one without the other. So too, the mitzvah itself has body and a soul, so to speak. The actual action of the mitzvah, that is the guf, right, so to speak, and the kavanah that comes along with it is the neshama. So therefore, and this is the example we gave last night, and this is going to be relevant this Shabbat, Adam hakoreh b'Torah parashat Vayetchanan. Person is reading from the Torah. They're reading Parashat Vayetchanan. Sheba nechtava Parashat Shema, and you have the Parasha of Shema. So you read those words. V'egiya zman Kriat Shema, and it's the time of Kriat Shema. Im kiven libo lekayem mitzvat Kriat Shema, yatzai yedei chovato. Then, if you had intent that by reading those words you want to fulfill the mitzvah of Kriat Shema, so you fulfill the mitzvah. However, if one was just reading from the Torah, one did not have intent, now that they're saying the words of Kriat Shema as well, they have not fulfilled the mitzvah in that way. What emerges from all of this, therefore, based on everything we've said, is that the mitzvah of Kriat Shema is, I won't say unique, because there is a small category of mitzvot that have this as well, but it belongs to a very small category, whereby there are two kavanot, two different forms of intent one has to have when one fulfills the mitzvah. Number one, which is like all mitzvot, that one has in mind that I am the general, that's what we mean when we say mitzvot tzrichot kavanah, that one has intent that one is fulfilling the mitzvah. And number two, for the mitzvah of Kriat Shema, specifically the meaning of the words that I'm saying, the idea of accepting Or Malchut Shamayim. Okay, כבר למדנו שאם לא כיוון המשמעות המילים בפסוק שמע ישראל, או יצא דרך חובתו, וצריך לעשות. Okay. נחזור לכוונה הכללית השייכת לכל מצוות. So now the question is, what exactly does it mean when we say you have to have general kavanah? Again, the point here is not to get obsessive. The point is not to say that, as I'm doing the mitzvah, I have to be thinking every second, I'm fulfilling the mitzvah. Right. How does this work? So he says, Leitim yeshna kavanah liduma. This is the most common, and this is what happens to most people every day, but what we'd call maybe dormant kavanah. What does that mean? That at least b'di'evet, that is okay. Look, for example, Adam sheba lebeit hakneset lepalel. A person comes to shul to daven. Ubeseder tefillah kara Shema. All right, shachrit or maariv. So you go through the order of the siddur and you say Shema. Af al pi shelot kaven b'mfurash lakem mitzvat Kriat Shema. So now, right, we get to the end of the end of shachrit. Person starts thinking back, say, did I have in mind, did I have intent, as I was saying Shema, right, that it's so even though you didn't have in mind that specific, that's obviously the best, but you weren't thinking at the time, I'm right now, I have the intent to fulfill the mitzvah of Kriat Shema, you still have what we call kavanah reduma, dormant kavanah. How do I know? What's the proof? The proof is that if you go and ask the person after the fact, you say, why did you say Shema this morning? So, why did I say Shema? I came to shul, I davened, part of davening is Shema, fulfilling the mitzvah. That's why I said it. Okay, so that's good enough. If a person says, I have absolutely no idea, I don't know what I was doing, I don't know there's such a thing as a mitzvah of Kriat Shema, then we have a problem. But that's generally speaking not the case. So too, other mitzvot, somebody puts on tefillin, somebody puts on tzitzit, right? You didn't think, you should have thought, that when you were putting it on, that you were doing it l'shem mitzvah, for the sake of the mitzvah, but if you didn't, it's clear that the intent was to fulfill the mitzvah, because otherwise, you wouldn't have put on tefillin, or you wouldn't have put on tzitzit. By the way, this is a question. This comes up. You have these the stands. The Chabad. They come and they put on tefillin. So it was. It's not 100% clear. Obviously, it's better. The person's going to come. The person wouldn't have put on tefillin. Now they put on tefillin. So if they understand, sometimes the person knows what they're doing. They're a little bit connected. They see that. Sometimes they'll go up to the Chabadnik themselves and say, "Can I put on tefillin?" Okay, but. So it could be. It could be. But in that specific case, right? If a person really has no idea so that's why we say, if a person comes to shul and a person puts on tefillin, it's clear. You came, you decided, you're putting it on. You didn't have in mind. You didn't say the words l'shem yichud b'seder. It's fine. It's clear that you had the kavanah. But if you're walking in the street and some guy in a black hat says, "Hey, will you come and put on tefillin?" You don't know what tefillin are. You've never put them on in your life. You have no idea. You say, "Okay, I'll do it because I'll get a nice selfie. I'll get a nice photo." There's absolutely no kavanah at all. It's not so clear. Maybe they fulfill the mitzvah, maybe not, but it's not. But they should. That's why the person should explain to him. You know what you're doing. You're doing a mitzvah. It's okay, do it for me, but have in mind that you have the mitzvah, the seder. But that's generally speaking on our case. But you have to have a basic. The point is, you have to have a basic level of kavanah. Now, what he says here, just to end off, is that when we get to the third paragraph of Shema Vayomer, as we've said, why do we say Vayomer? At least, why do we say Vayomer at night? Certainly, it's because we have the mitzvah of Zachirat Yetziat Mitzrayim, and we have mention of going out of Egypt. So there, if a person didn't know, if you'd say to a person, why did you say the third paragraph of Shema? What do you mean? I said the third paragraph of Shema, because that's what comes after the second paragraph of Shema and the Siddur. What about the mitzvah of remembering going out of Egypt? So, I don't know what you're talking about. So you've not fulfilled the mitzvah. So there one has, that's why it's printed in many of the Siddurim, and I know. And so a person just to know that one should have intent of remembering they're fulfilling the mitzvah of Zech Yetziat Mitzrayim. Rabbi Kenigsberg ben Akash Omer Asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lezakot Yisrael Lefei Kabbalah Torah Mitzvot Shnei Madrei Chavetz Man Tzidko Yagdil Torah